It says they should die.
If they speak in the name of other gods, but we already established that Joseph
No,
never claimed
it
to
says
speak
or.
anything
It
other than.
says or. It says or other gods.
But here's the problem: is that this is contradicted immediately after that in verse 22. How you doing, Larry?
Yep. Good. How are you?
Doing all right.
Yeah. So I had some questions about Joseph Smith.
All right. What's your first one?
Deuteronomy 18:20 through 22.
Let's not crash out today, Laramie, okay?
Please.
You guys were the only ones that crash out.
No.
Whatever. Now, okay. So what about Deuteronomy 18?
Yeah, when it talks about false prophets.
Okay, so let's actually read what it says, Deuteronomy 18:20 through 22 here.
Yep.
All right. And I'm going to use the New Revised Standard Updated edition. So, let's see here. Any prophet who presumes to speak in my name a word which I have not commanded the prophet to speak, or who speaks in the name of other gods, that prophet shall die. You may say to yourself, how can we recognize a word that the Lord has not spoken? If a prophet speaks in the name of the Lord, but the thing does not take place or prove true, it is the word that the Lord has not spoken. The prophet has spoken it presumptuously. Do not be frightened by it. Okay, so let's break things down here. Did Joseph Smith claim to speak in the name of anyone other than the God of Israel?
No.
No. Okay. So he did not. That's not the case. So here's the issue that we see here. Because verse 22 says, if a prophet speaks in the name of the Lord, but the thing does not take place or prove true, it's the word of the Lord is not spoken. The prophet has spoken it presumptuously. I mean, he's spoken out of turn. Doesn't mean he lied. He just spoke out of turn. Do not be frightened by it. In other words, do not be frightened by the prophecy. So where does it indicate that the prophet is all of a sudden false?
Well, he was speaking falsely and saying things God didn't say. So that'd be a
But
false prophet.
again, well, okay. So what? So again, it doesn't say that individual is a false prophet. In fact, this text says that
It
person
says
is
they
still a
should die.
prophet.
It says they should die.
If they speak in the name of other gods, but we already established that Joseph
No,
never
it
claimed to speak
says
in
or.
anything
It
other than.
says or. It says or other gods.
But here's the problem: is that this is contradicted immediately after that in verse 22.
So what is or?
It says, "Speak in the name of." I mean, it's a conjunction.
Okay.
So
what does that mean?
well, why don't you tell us what you think it means? Because you obviously have a point here.
Obviously it's saying in the verse that if you read it to me again. Sorry, I don't have a Bible. Or yeah, let me get my Bible real quick. 1 second.
Okay, I find it interesting that no one really will include verse 19, where it says, "Anyone who does not heed the words of that prophet who shall speak in my name, I myself will hold accountable. But any prophet who presumes." So that's a word that needs to be attributed here too. So
Yeah,
Joseph.
let me
So
pull out my Bible.
what does presume mean, Laramie?
It'd be like assumed or I guess thought.
Okay, so anyone who presumes to speak in the name of the God of Israel shall die. All right. So, do we have any examples
Deuteronomy.
of
1 second. 1 second. 18. All right. So you
so
said
Deuteronomy
verse
18?
19.
Yeah, verse 19. Yep.
This one. Okay. And whoever will not listen to my word, he shall speak in my name. I myself require it of him.
What
Is that the one
version
you're
are you
talking
reading
about?
out of? Yeah, what version are you reading out of?
ESV.
ESV. That's unfortunate. Oh, whatever. But yeah. So
Or you read it. You read it to me.
yeah, I have it in the New Revised Standard Version, which is the most accurate version based on the manuscripts we have available. So yeah, it says, anyone who does not heed the words of the prophet, that the prophet shall speak in my name, I myself will hold accountable. That any prophet who presumes to speak in my name a word that I have not commanded the prophet to speak, or who speaks in the name of other gods, that prophet shall die. So so do we have examples within the biblical text of someone who presumes to speak in the name of the God of Israel who is then put to death?
I have no clue. Do you have an example?
Okay. I don't actually. That's
Okay.
the problem. So here's the so anyone who presumes to speak in the name of, so it doesn't say that they're a false prophet either. But then again, in verse 22, if a prophet speaks in the name of the word of the Lord, in the name of the Lord, but that thing does not take place or prove true, it's a word that the Lord has not spoken. This prophet has spoken it presumptuously. Do not be frightened by that prophecy. So, so the issue is Joseph did not claim to prophesy in the name of other gods, and we'd
Also,
have to demonstrate that Joseph presumed that he was a prophet, which
and
would
that he was
indicate
not commanded by the Lord. You would have to show how
right,
he was not commanded by the Lord to say it.
right.
Great. Yeah, I can.
So
History of the Church, Volume 2, page 182.
okay, let's go ahead and pull that up here. So, history of the church. All right, history. What page did you say it was on?
Oh, 182.
182. All right. What chapter is that? You know?
I do not know.
Okay, so we're dealing with a quote mine here. All right. All right. So 182 we're looking at. All right. So this is going into Zion's camp. Here we go. So here's the entirety of this section here. And so, brethren moving west halted at Kirtland. Brethren, certain brethren from Bolton, New York, came for counsel. And so I'm going to start in page 180. Certain brethren from Bolton, New York, came for counsel relative to the proceedings to the west, and the High Council assembled on the 18th. After a long investigation, I decided that Elder Tanner should assist with his might to build up the cause by tarrying in Kirtland. Which decision received the unanimous vote of the council. The school of the elders will continue, and arrangements were also made, according to the revelation of June 1829, for choosing the 12 apostles to be special messengers to bear the gospel among the nations. On the Sabbath previous to the 14th of February, February 8th, Brothers Joseph and Brigham Young came to my house after the meeting and sung for me. The Spirit of the Lord was poured out upon us, and I told them that I wanted to see these brethren together who went up to Zion in the camp for the previous summer, for I had a blessing for them, and a meeting which was appointed, of which the following were the minutes. Minutes of the meetings which the 12 apostles were chosen, ordained, and instructed. Kirtland, February 14th, 1835. This day, a meeting was called of those who journeyed last season to Zion for the purpose of laying the foundation for its redemption. Together, as with many other of the brethren and sisters as were disposed to attend, President Joseph Smith, Jr., presiding, read the 15th chapter of John and said, "Let us endeavor to solemnize our minds that we may receive a blessing by calling on the Lord." After an appropriate and affecting prayer, the brethren who went to Zion in Zion's camp, were requested to take their seats together in a part in the house by themselves. Now here's page 182.
Okay.
President Smith then stated in the meeting that had been called because God had commanded it, and it was made known to him by vision and by the Holy Spirit. He then gave a relation of some of the circumstances attending while our journeying to Zion, our trials, sufferings, and said God had not designed all this for nothing, but he had in remembrance yet, and it was the will of God of those who went to Zion with a determination to lay down their lives if necessary, should be ordained to the ministry, to go forth to prune the vineyard for the last time, or the coming of the Lord, which was nigh, even 56 years should wind up the scene. The president said also many things, such as weak things, even the smallest and weakest among us, shall be powerful and mighty, and great things shall be accomplished by you from this hour, and shall begin to feel the whisperings of the Spirit of God. And the work of God shall begin to break forth from this time, and you shall be endowed with power from on high. The president then called upon all those who went to Zion, if they were agreed with him in the statement that he made, to arise, and they all arose and stood upon their feet. He then called upon the remainder of the congregation to know if they also sanctioned the move, and they all raised their right hand.
Great. Yep. That's exactly what I was saying.
So
Are you
it said that
familiar?
it was commanded by God.
Yeah.
Amen.
So
Are you familiar?
what was the statement he was commanded of
Deuteronomy
God to say?
18.
Yeah.
What was the statement he was commanded by God to say?
One second. It says the meeting was commanded by God.
So the meeting had been called because God commanded it to give
Uh
relation
huh.
to the circumstances attending while journeying to Zion, our trials, sufferings. But he hadn't remembrance yet, and it was the will of God that those who went to Zion with a determination to lay down their lives should be ordained to the ministry. Basically, those who were part of Zion's camp by the will of God were to be ordained as apostles within the church.
Before we continue, be sure to get your copy of the Apologetics Study Journal for $21.99 on Amazon. Study deeper, research harder, and stand stronger. Get it today on Amazon and at the link in the description or pinned comment.
Okay. Are you familiar with Ellen G. White and the Great Disappointment?
Yes. Again, what does that have to
Okay.
do with what we're talking about here?
Yeah. Do you think she was a true prophet?
No.
Okay. So, but she did speak like things about God, right? Like she
Jesus.
believed in Jesus, all that stuff.
Can
She
have
just
Kind of like
anyone
Joseph
can have
Smith.
the
to say
hold
something.
on. Anyone can have the spirit of prophecy. It doesn't mean they're automatically a prophet.
That's exactly what I'm saying. So if he said it was 56 years from whatever that date was, obviously that's
What do
surpassed
you
that
think the
date.
phrase? So in the 19th century, what do you think "wind up the scene" means?
Wind up the scene?
Yes,
I have no clue.
it means it will not happen prior to this date. He still didn't give an exact date. He said it will not happen before 56 years.
I don't think that's what that said.
So
One second.
that in the vernacular of the early 19th century, because they have turns of phrases that we don't use anymore, and so trying to
Uh-huh.
use a 20th or 21st century turn of phrase in order to make sense of how they said things in the 1800s, especially the early 1800s, without actually having an understanding of how language worked, doesn't quite work that way. So when he says, even 56 years should not wind up the scene, he's saying the second coming will not happen before 56 years.
It
It doesn't
doesn't
say it
say
will happen
not.
within.
It doesn't say
He
not.
said, hold
So
on, Lamo, hold on. It says will not happen before 56 years from this point. It doesn't mean that it's going to happen in 56 years. It doesn't mean it's going to happen within 56 years. It says it will not happen before 56 years from now. It doesn't mean
it
it's
doesn't
going to
say not
happen
though.
at that time. That's exactly what wind up the scene means. He doesn't give a specific date. In fact, this
Well,
also
let
goes
me
into a direct. Hold on, Laramie. This also goes into a direct revelation that he received, that he referenced much later on in his life, when he actually talked about this. And this would have been before Zion's camp when he was talking about this here. All right, so this is in the Doctrine and Covenants. All right,
Okay.
so let me go ahead and pull this up here. All right, let's see here.
Yeah, so I looked up wind
Yeah.
up the scene. That's whatever you said is not what that means. So just go ahead. Just to throw that out there.
All right, so let's see here. No, where is it? Where's the? So yeah, so the problem is that again, the the issue here is that even 56 years should wind up the scene. That's not what it means. That there will be at least 56 years. It doesn't. He still doesn't give an exact date.
No, and
Yeah.
no, I'm not using AI. I looked it up.
Let's see here. Where's that section of the Doctrine and Covenants? Let's see here. Here we go. Section 130, 14 and 15. Here we go. Let me pull this up here. So this is what Joseph received. Here, let me pull this up. Got my
Be able to put it
note.
on the screen so I can read it, or
I can take a screenshot. Give me 1 second.
Uh,
Change this here really quick. Oh, no, not stickers. Oh, wrong one. Here we go. Okay, so 14, 15, and 16.
what is this again? Doctrine and Covenants? Okay.
So this is Doctrine and Covenants, section 130, verses 14, 15, and 16. All right, so he's talking about a revelation that he received around Christmas of 1840 or 1832.
Yeah.
Okay. While I was once praying very earnestly to know the coming of the Son of Man, when I heard a voice repeat the following: Joseph, my son, if thou live until thou art 85 years old, thou shalt see the face of the Son of Man. Therefore let this suffice, and trouble me no more on this matter. I was left thus without being able to decide whether this coming referred to the beginning of the millennium or some previous appearing, or whether I should thus die and see his face.
Okay.
So not even Joseph knew. So when he's saying that not even 56 years, he's talking about this because Zion's camp, because what we read in History of the Church, Volume 2, was 2 years after this revelation was received.
Okay.
So not even Joseph knew. And so he's trying to make connections based on what the Lord has said, because again, he said, let this suffice and trouble me no more on this matter.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying there. But again, if I don't believe in, I guess, Mormonism or Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, I wouldn't really take Doctrine and Covenants as a Bible source, I guess.
Well, regardless, this is still, this is
The
still
problem is you're
what,
making an internal critique.
right. So if you're trying to make the claim that Joseph made a false prophecy, when he's relying on what he received in 1832 with what he's saying in 1834, that's not a prophecy. That's his interpretation of the revelation that he received. So even then, that wouldn't necessarily fit within the strict misinterpretation of Deuteronomy 18. So what
You
else do
said
you
that
have?
was 1832?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
once.
and history of the church. What we read from history of the church was 1834
Okay.
or 1835. Excuse me. So
Okay.
this would have been just a little over 2 years.
So you said if you live till you're 82, you said, then he'll see the Son of God?
He'll see the face of the Son of God. Yes. So again, Joseph, my son, if thou livest until thou art 85 years old, you shall see the face of the Son of Man. Therefore, let this suffice and trouble me no more on this matter. And this is now Joseph speaking. I was left thus without being able to decide whether this coming referred to the beginning of the millennium or to some previous appearing, or whether I should die and thus see his face. So Joseph didn't even know what to make of this. And so when he's saying that that not even 56 years should pass by the scene, well, yeah, it makes sense because at this point in time, he's 29 years old,
And he died
and the
when he was
promise
when?
was he died when he was 39.
Yeah. Okay.
So, or 38, excuse me. So when he's saying, if you live until you're 85, you shall see the face of the Son of Man. So that's why he's saying 56 years in 1835.
Okay. Yeah. I get what you're saying. I'll have to do some more studying on that. I mean, obviously, I don't really agree with Joseph Smith in a whole. Just
Well,
his.
regardless of whether or not you agree, this is the logical conclusion to take. I mean, if you're trying to use this source as him making a false prophecy about the second coming, and yet he's correlating this with a revelation that he received just a little over 2 years previous, it makes sense why he would say such a thing. Which,
Yeah.
when he's saying that 56 years before we'll wind up the scene. Well, yeah, 56 years would be around the time when he's 85 years old. But even then, according to what we see here with what he received in 1832, even Joseph didn't know whether this meant the millennium, the another appearance of Jesus Christ to him, or if it was some other meaning. He didn't even know that
So
by his own admission.
it was 1829 was the first one, Revelation?
So it's referencing another revelation from 1829. That's
The one
not.
I
This
pulled
isn't
up?
talking. Yeah. So when we're looking at this, so let me pull this up here. So talking about a revelation received in June 1829. This is a different revelation than the coming of
Yeah. And he
the
was
second
how
coming
old?
of God. What are you talking about?
How old was he in 1829?
1829. He would have been 24.
Okay, so that's nowhere near
So the
85.
minutes. Yeah. Hold on. So again, the Kirtland minutes. So again, it says the School of the Elders will continue, and arrangements were also made according to a revelation of June 1829 for choosing the 12 apostles. So the revelation in June 1829 is in regard to choosing the 12 apostles to restore the quorum of the 12. Okay, so this has nothing to do with the second coming.
But then the other part does.
So yeah, the revelation received in 1832, Joseph was specifically asking about the second coming. Joseph was told, if you live until you're 85, you shall see the face of the Son of Man. Therefore, leave me alone. Don't ask about this anymore. And then and Joseph was left kind of wondering, well, does this mean the beginning of the millennium with the second coming of God? Does this mean that, some other appearance, or does this mean that I'll then die and then see his face? I don't know what that means. And
Yeah, but
so
if
the
he gave
meaning that no, hold on. Because again, if we actually look at what it says, because the context here in page 182 is talking about a meeting that occurred on February 14th, 1835.
the one I
So
pulled
over
up.
2 years, yeah, of the one that you pulled up from History of the Church, Volume 2. So this is the meetings, the minutes of a meeting that occurred February 14th, 1835. Which would have been more than 2 years after Joseph received what we have in section 130.
Yeah, but I'm just saying if he gave 56 years as a date, he wouldn't have been
Yeah,
close to 85.
he was born in 1805.
Yeah.
So he was born in December of 1805, and this meeting took place in February 1835.
Yeah, so he would have been
So
30.
it would be so no in February 1835 he would have been 29. He would have just barely turned 29 3 months earlier,
Okay.
or 2 months earlier, excuse me. Because again, he was born December 23rd, 1805.
Okay.
So it was almost 1806. So when Joseph Smith says 56 years, yeah, that's accurate, because in 56 years he would be 85 years old.
Okay. So he would have been 85 on the dot in 56 years.
Yeah, so not necessarily on the dot per se, because again, it would have been 2 months. So in 2 months from February 14th, because again, born December 23rd, 1805, the meeting that took place that you're reading that are trying to equate as a false prophecy took place in February on Valentine's Day, 1835, which would have been less than 2 months after his 29th birthday.
Okay.
Okay. So again, just using basic math and
Yeah.
recognizing that his birthday's in December,
Yeah.
56 years from February 14th, 1835, he would be 85 years old.
Okay. Yeah. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll do some more studying on it and hop back in here one day.
Yeah,
Eventually.
absolutely.
Yep. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for coming up, Larry.
Bye.
Yep.